Just quickly review, the last game. Players of the game, offense was Trace McSorley. Defense, we went with the defensive line as a unit. Special teams, we shared it with Blake Gillikin and Tyler Davis. Tyler for his combination of 6 for 6 extra points, but really his kickoffs. I thought that was a major factor in the game. 2 touchbacks, 62-yard average. Did a great job there. And then obviously, Blake has just been fantastic. I'd make the argument that 1 punt out of our end zone I think he punted it like 60 yards, and then we pin it on the sideline. And Irvin Charles, I think, is probably playing as elite of a level as you possibly could play as a gunner. And the combination of Blake's punts and Irv going down there. You see a guy who's 6'4", 230 pounds and running down the field like that. He's been tremendous. So there are players of the week. In general, I thought we played really physical, which with that type of team and the style of play that they want to play with, I thought we were very physical, and we challenged the team before the game about that up front on both sides of the ball. We challenged our wide receivers. Again, their style of defense, they're going to be in your face. They're going to be very physical at the line of scrimmage, and we were going to have to make plays and create separation. Very pleased with our overall discipline and organization, our substitution, our communication. We only had 1 penalty in the game, none on offense, none on defense, and 1 on special teams. And then I think we all realized the importance of starting fast. First quarter, we've scored 90 points and we've given up 0. In third quarter, we've scored 72 points and given up 3. I think that was magnified if you think of this past game. If I'm correct, I think Michigan had scored on their opening drive 5 out of 6 games. And we were able to hold them to a 3 and out. And then in the third quarter, we forced them to a punt on their first drive as well. So that continued. So I thought that was really good overall. And then I kind of already mentioned special teams. I think Gillikin and Irvin Charles are really playing at a high level right now, and I thought we improved our field goal protection. Obviously, it just showed up, on extra points, but pleased with that. Just watching it. To get into Ohio State, obviously, so much respect for the university as a whole and the football program and their history and the tradition. And obviously, Urban Meyer, is one of the most respected coaches in college football and has been very, very successful there and everywhere else he's been. Their defensive coordinator, Greg Schiano, obviously, very familiar with him and his reputation. Got a guy who's been a college and NFL head coach, as their defensive coordinator, and then our offensive coordinator, Kevin Wilson. Again, you got a successful college head coach in our conference. And then on special teams, you got Kerry Coombs and I think Combs, and we also realize, Urban Meyer has always been very involved with special teams. So tremendous challenge there, tremendous respect. Great history, between these two schools. I think that's probably going to be one of the biggest differences in this game is being able to go on the road, play one of the best teams in the country on the road in a tough environment. It's one thing to win at home in a whiteout. It's one thing to win at home college game day, 110,000. It's another thing to go on the road and do that. And that's a challenge for our entire program, coaches, players, and everything else. So we're excited about it and looking forward to it. Offensively, they're an up-tempo offense or spread scheme. They do run zone read, power, stretch plays, do a good job of those things, take shots down the field. JT Barrett has been playing at Ohio State for, I think this is his 16th year, maybe going on 17. One of the most successful quarterbacks in school history, if not the most. One of the most successful quarterbacks in Big Ten history and nationally. I mean, you got to just completely respect everything that guy's been able to do in his career and everything I know about him and have heard about him. He's a class act. That's going to be a challenge for us because he can beat you with his legs, he can beat you with his arm, he can beat you with his mind. His touchdown interception ratio right now is excellent. doing some great things. And then obviously the combination of Dobbins and Weber in the backfield. They just got so much speed and athleticism across the board. Elite defense. You know, everybody all offseason is talking about their D-line. Obviously they got tremendous depth, size, athleticism, power up front. You know, that's kind of been their calling card. You know, Coach Johnson obviously does an unbelievable job with them and has his whole career. You know, they pressure a good amount. They're 42% pressure on normal downs. And obviously Nick Bosa. I know you guys, you know, laughed when I said I was trying to get Saquon Barkley's family to have another child, send them on a romantic vacation. Well, Urban obviously has done this with the Bosa family because there just seems to continue to be great players from that family playing for Ohio State. So he's going to be a challenge for us. And then obviously Jerome Baker's a guy that we know very well, who's playing very well for him as well. On special teams, you know, you see all their athleticism and speed all over the field. Their kickoff return unit and their punt return defense, you know, are #1 in the conference and ranked in the top 5 in the country. So tremendous challenge, but we're also looking forward to it, and we're going to have a great week of preparation. So open up for questions.
I'll start with Rich Scarcella from the Reading Eagle.
Good afternoon, James.
Hey, Rich, how are you, buddy?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
Great. James, you mentioned your experience coaching against JT Barrett. How has he evolved? What is he doing especially well this year?
Well, I think we all know Kevin Wilson is a really good offensive coach and been successful wherever he's been. And I think, you know, early in the season, you know, they were still trying to kind of find their offensive identity, and they found it now, and they're putting up big-time points and yards on everybody, and you knew it was just a matter of time because Kevin's such a good coach, and they got so many good players, you know. And I see JT playing with a lot of confidence right now, and he's obviously surrounded by a lot of talent, and he's doing a great job of distributing the ball, you know, to that talent. So, you know, again, you got an experienced playmaking quarterback. You know, and playing in a scheme that really accents his abilities and you know, and his supporting cast. So it's gonna be a real challenge. There's no doubt about it.
Bob Flounders, Harrisburg Patriot News.
Hi, James. How are you?
Good, Bob. Having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, no, not
No, I got you now.
Okay. James, I just wanted to ask you, now that you've seen the tape of the Michigan game, the offensive line play, your offensive line play, how did you think they did overall? And especially Will Fry, that was a big spot for him. How did you think he did? Yeah,
they're getting better. You know, I know everybody wanted this in the beginning of the season for every position, every unit just to be kind of hitting on all cylinders, but that's just not how it works. We're just going to love those guys and keep developing them and keep coaching them, and they're getting better. You know, Matt Limegrover does an unbelievable job for us, and I think the combination of Will Fries and Chaz Wright, you know, and those two guys' development and those two guys' ability to you know, create depth for us as well is really good. So, you know, I think they played really good against a really good D-line last week, but they're going to have to continue to grow because, you know, like I mentioned in the very beginning, you know, I think everybody realizes, you know, the type of respect and the type of players that Ohio State has up front. So it's going to be another challenge. I mean, that's the beauty of this conference, week in and week out. You know, you're going to go against high-level players, and you need to continue to develop, you need to continue to grow, and you need to continue to learn. And those guys are doing that.
Derek Navarre, Wilkes-Barre Times leader.
Hi, James. Good afternoon.
Hi, Derek. How are you?
I'm doing great. James, you and Marcus Allen arrived at Penn State right around the same time. What has your relationship with him been like over these 4 years, and what ways have you seen him grow and change?
Really good. You know, I got a really good relationship with Marcus and Marcus's mom and Marcus's dad. You know, I've talked to you guys about him before. You know, he's a unique player. We're kind of in a time where everybody wants to be tough and everybody wants to be hard all the time. That guy, you know, any video you watch, any picture you see, or anytime you're around him, he has got a smile from ear to ear. He's happy, he's appreciative, he's hardworking. but then he's able to switch and go on the field and be tough, be physical, but he's able to do both, which I think is a really, really important talent, and he has it. And you know, he's been a great player for us. He's been a great leader. His energy is infectious in our locker room. You know, we had a long talk, him and Dad, after the season about, you know, his future and what he wanted to do and what was the right time to do it. And he decided to come back to Penn State and really didn't have to. You know, had, you know, from pretty much everybody I talked to, had strong enough grades that, you know, you could make the argument. And he felt like there was still some areas and things that he wanted to work on and help our team and also help himself. And you know, I don't think without that relationship, you know, I don't think that happens. You know, and his dad was able to be very honest and direct with me, and I was able to be very honest and direct with his dad and with Marcus. And, you know, so he's a tremendously talented guy and one of the leaders in our locker room. And I think he's got a very bright future, not just in football, but in his life, because he's one of those people that people are attracted to because of his energy and how positive he is and how intelligent he is. So you know, he's got a very, very bright future in whatever he decides to do.
Mark Wogenrich, Allentown Morning Call.
Hi there, how are you today?
Good, Mark. How are you?
Good, great, thank you, appreciate it. You've spoken before about the 2014 Ohio State game's impact on your team. Why don't you maybe just refresh that? What role did that game play in your team's development to where you are now, headed to Columbus this week?
Well, I think it played a big role in our game last year. I thought there was a lot of confidence from our team because we had played them tough in the past. You know, and really, you could make the argument, you know, should have won that game. So I think our team has like steadily just grown, you know, over the last 4 years in a lot of different ways and a lot of different experiences to get to this point. You know, but again, you know, there are no moral victories, but I do think there are lessons. There's lessons that are learned in every win, and there's lessons that are learned in every loss as long as you're willing to look at them and be honest with yourself. And we got a really mature football team, and we've done that. So, you know, I think all those experiences matter. You know, we talk about it all the time, you know, about each Friday night before the game, we talk about how hard we've worked to get here. And I think a lot of times people focus on, you know, the week that how hard we prepared that week or how hard we prepared in the last year. But I make the argument these guys, you know, have been training for 18, 19, 20 years for this opportunity. And, you know, I think when you look at it that way, you know, maybe you don't overlook things, or maybe you don't take things for granted as much. I think the older you get, you're much more appreciative of things. And, you know, I try to kind of impart that knowledge, you know, into our team and into our players. Is, guys, you know, you've worked your entire life for these types of opportunities, and you're blessed in so many different ways. So let's take advantage of it, you know. And I think our guys understand it. So it's all those experiences. It's the Minnesota game. It's the Kent State game. It's the Akron game. It's Pittsburgh games. It's Ohio State whiteouts from a few years ago. It's the one from last year. It's the one that we went on the road to Ohio State. All these things, you know, it's the Michigan game on the road last year. All these experiences, positive or negative, have gotten us to this point. So, you know, we just try to be very open and honest about those things, and not rationalize and not make excuses, you know, own all those things and learn and grow from them.
Frank Bodani, York Daily Record.
Hey, good afternoon, James.
Hey Frank, how are you?
Real good, thanks. Mike Gesicki, what's the biggest improvement in his overall game from last year to now, and how would you grade his end zone celebration leap over Trace?
You know, I didn't see it actually. I saw the pictures. It doesn't shock me. I mean, I think we all know that Mike can jump out of the stadium. You know, high-level volleyball player, high-level basketball player, the best. Every time we have a dunk contest on the football team, he wins it. You know, he's that's I think one of his special qualities is how well he can jump and go after the ball in the air, or jump over things like human beings like Trace. So yeah, I'm pleased with Mike. He is, I think, improved in a lot of areas, especially in his blocking. I thought, my discussion is very similar, like with Marcus, my sit-down discussion with Mike, about areas that he needed to improve. No one, from our team perspective, we need Mike to continue to be a difference maker for us in the passing game. But for Mike's individual future, which we do talk about in the offseason, there's not a whole lot more he needs to prove as a receiver. It's as a blocker. That's the area that he needs to grow and has grown dramatically. But to show people that he can be an every down tight end, and be a major factor in the run game as well as the pass game. And he's taken that very seriously. He's worked really hard on it. I think if you look at us right now in our running game, our perimeter blocking with the tight ends as well as with the receivers, I think is probably maybe one of our most improved areas, on our team. Our wide receiver and tight end perimeter blocking, as well as our tight ends, mixing it up inside as well, is vastly improved, and we need to continue investing in those areas.
Joe Giuliano, Philadelphia Inquirer.
Hey James, how are you?
Good, Joe. How are you?
Fine, thank you. I just wanted to follow up on your answer to Mark's question about, as you're talking about the different experiences you've had over the years, but I just wanted to pinpoint on last year's Ohio State game, and how much did that just boost your guys' confidence to know that all this hard work and preparation has led to a win over an elite team, and how that carried you forward for the rest of last season and into this season?
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt when you find a way as an organization to beat the #2 team in the country. I don't care where you're at, in your program's development and things like that. Those wins have a big impact from a lot of different perspectives. So yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. As you know, we take it one game at a time and things like that. But yeah, I think there's definitely an awareness from all of us, including me, that wins like that, build confidence, and a confident football team has a chance to develop into a pretty good football team.
Mike Gross, Lancaster Newspapers.
James, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. The program's getting an unbelievable amount of media attention lately, and I think probably most of us saw you on Monday Night Football last night. I'm wondering if you are now having to manage your time and learn to say no. You personally are having to learn how to say no and manage your time in a way that maybe you haven't had to before because of all the requests for your time and attention.
Yeah, it's probably, this is something, and I want to thank Chris, because Chris does a great job with that. She's the bad person where she has to tell people no. But obviously it's magnified right now, but we kind of stick to the same model. So, we try to grant a certain amount of local requests, because the local beat writers and media people that cover us day in and day out, we feel like those people deserve the most access. And then we also try to do some things nationally, because we also understand the importance of getting our brand and our university and our football program out nationally. So we try to do those things as well. And what Chris has done a good job for me and for the players is trying to limit the impact that it has on our normal day. So I know most people don't like it with me, but we have a staff meeting every morning at 7 a.m. So I'm not going to do anything after 7 a.m. So most of my interview stuff I'm doing before 7 a.m., before the staff meeting. So 6 o'clock, 6:20, 6:40, or whatever it may be. And then we'll also do some stuff typically late at night. So basically Chris does her best in trying to protect my day from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. So that's why I know we got somebody in the room that's looking at me right now that I'm going to meet with, I think, tomorrow, and it's at the crack of dawn. But that's why. because as a head coach, if you're not careful and it's already an issue, you're just constantly getting pulled out of the meeting room. You're trying to sit in with the defense and you get pulled out 5 times. You're trying to sit with the offense and you get pulled out 10 times. And some of them you can't control, player issues. You know, that's you got to deal with that. So Chris does a great job, and then obviously trying to manage Saquon to make sure that he's able to handle his academics and handle his football, and then be able to interact a little bit. But Chris does a great job, in balancing that and helping us kind of manage it. And for the most part, we're on the same page with how we want to do it.
Donnie Collins, Current Times Tribune.
Hi, James. How are you?
Good, Donnie. How are you?
Doing well. You mentioned it quite a bit. You mentioned it earlier, but because of the kick coverage and the work of the kicker and the punter, you guys have largely controlled field position just about every week. And in a game like this against a higher ranked team, how much is this field position on the road magnified with kick coverage and things like that, especially when the weather forecast might be calling for rain, stuff like that?
Yeah, I think it's one of the most important aspects of the game is field position. It's funny. You talk about all these different games. I remember Michigan last year. We start the game backed up and are punting the ball out of our own end zone with a tight punt to Jabril Peppers. It's like the last way you'd want to start the game. We started it that way, and then we played almost the first half on our side of the field. That's not how you'd like it to go. It's funny because I've been really looking at Northwestern. Whenever you go to Northwestern, it always seems to be really windy, and I've really noticed Pat. It's funny, last game, I saw him talk to the reporter after the game, and she asked why he handled the end of the game the way he handled it, and he goes, well, look at your hair, and her hair was like blowing all over her head. And to me, that's me kind of understanding the Big Ten a little bit more, where at Northwestern, that's usually a factor. So I think you have your general rules, but then you also have your stadiums and your certain venues that magnify it. But it's something that we've tried to emphasize as much as we possibly could. And we got really good team speed right now, and we got a punter that does a great job in to me, the 3 things that we asked him to do, which is hang time, which is distance, and which is location. And right now he's doing really good job in all 3 of those, which isn't easy to do. And then we got guys that are taking a lot of pride in their role in terms of covering kicks, and it's the same thing on kickoff. Tyler's been excellent in kickoff. I know there's been talk about we've missed a few field goals or had a few field goals blocked, but he's been excellent in kickoff, and I think before the end of the season he'll be viewed the same way on field goals. So. And we believe in it. Field position is something we talk about all the time, with our players. The importance of winning the field position battle each week, and so far so good.
Corey Geiger, Altoona Mirror.
Hi, James. How are you?
Good, Corey. How are you?
Good. Ohio State is coming off of a bye. Is it reasonable to expect them to add new wrinkles, or you guys prepared for new things they may do? And then, what were the advantages maybe you had coming off of a bye against Michigan, and how much can that help when you're going into a big game?
I think it has a lot. I think it helps a lot. There's no doubt about it. You just have more time for everything, more time to recover, more time to get healthy, more time to watch film and plan. It's valuable. I think it's probably the most valuable thing we have on this earth is time, and a bye week creates that. So yeah, it helped us last week. It's going to help them this week. There's no doubt about it. But again, we control the things that we can control. This isn't one of them. So we got our normal week of preparation, which I feel good about it. I do think we handled our bye week good enough that we are still getting some residual effects 2 weeks later from how we handled the bye week 2 weeks ago. And I also think the way the game played out last week, that we were able to get some backups in the game and things like that, that helped. That it wasn't Iowa where it was this emotional, draining and physically draining game all the way up to the last second. So I think there's value in that as well. So, we're gonna maximize this week and get to the hotel and get a little bit more rest and then get ready to play the game.
Audrey Snyder, DK Pittsburgh Sports.
How you doing?
Good. You don't really ever miss. You're always sitting right here to my right. You never call in. Everything okay?
Yeah, I appreciate the concern. We had a staff meeting, so I'm currently out in Pittsburgh, but I'll be back tomorrow. Don't worry.
Awesome.
James, I'm wondering, you touched on a little bit earlier as far as Marcus Allen, Jason Cabinda, and Grant Haley. Obviously, those three guys came in together. Three of your leaders on defense. What do you notice about the differences in their leadership styles? Because at least to me, it seems like you got kind of three different personalities there.
Very much so. Marcus is bubbly, outgoing, full of energy, huge smile on his face, dancing, laughing, clowning other guys, me, other players, everybody. He's just a ball of positive energy that I love. And it's different because he was the same way as a freshman, but he's a senior now. He's more mature. There's a time and a place, and he does a great job with all of those things. He is universally respected on our team, and really all three of those guys are. Grant is completely different. Grant has probably said 32 words. He's more reserved. He's Mr. Dependable. You know what you're getting with Grant every day. You know what you're getting with Grant every play. It just kind of a very, very mature, steady, well-respected, very thoughtful, very intelligent, and really all three of those guys. That's the thing that's so cool is they're all so intelligent and articulate and those types of things. Just they're packaged differently. Marcus is crazy and Grant is more reserved. I could see Marcus being on some type of movie or comedy show, and I could see Grant running for politics one day. And then you have Jason Cabinda, that is probably one of the more natural, charismatic leaders I've been around. Jason has very strong opinions on things, which is also why I think he's such a good leader, is because when Jason opens his mouth and says something, he says it with conviction. He believes it in his heart. He's also the guy, whenever I have council meetings or captains meetings, he's the guy that's going to speak up and is willing to challenge or ask me tough questions about things. And I love that. I love that about those guys. And I love that about Jason. Jason, over his time here, kind of understands there's a time and place for everything as well, but he's not afraid to speak his mind. I said in front of the team the other day, I talk all the time about using our program more than just for football and for school, but for networking and for contacts and all these wonderful opportunities that they get. And it's funny because I met with the game day people last week, and they could not have raved more about Jason Cabinda and how they think he has a bright future in being a sports commentator, and that not only is he going to do it, that they want him working at ESPN. And to me, that's just, all our guys should be taking advantage of all these opportunities, meeting lettermen, dealing with the media, their job interviews. Every time you get up to talk in front of the camera, it's a job interview for our guys. And those three guys have just handled things so well on the field. They've handled things so well off the field. They've been extensions of the coaching staffs. They've been what we talk about all the time. I would probably say the best way to describe them is they're culture drivers. That's really what they are. Those guys have taken the culture that we wanted to have at Penn State, and they have driven it home in every area. Recruiting, player development, how to conduct themselves in the classroom, in the community, with the media. They are culture drivers, and we will be forever indebted to them, because those guys are going to leave here and they're going to leave a legacy on, I remember when we got here, I think the best person to describe is Mike Hull. There's still guys talking about Mike Hull. And I actually think that Marcus and Grant and Jason can be those type of guys that the freshmen now are going to be telling the freshmen 4 years from now, this is how Jason Cabinda did it, this is how Grant Haley did it, this is how Marcus did it. And you can't put a value on those types of guys in your locker room.
We'll open up to questions here in the room. Raise your hand and we'll get a mic to you.
Hey James.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Awesome.
You talked Iowa before. How much can you draw on the experience of already going into a hostile environment and winning a close game going into this game?
Yeah, I think from my time at Kinnick, did I pronounce that right? Is one of the better venues I've been in. I mean, they are right on top of you. They are wild. I know, obviously, going to Ohio State is going to be the same way. So I do think there's value that we have been on the road in a tough environment. Not only in these guys' careers, but in this season, because I think we all know it's tough to do. It's tough to come and play at Penn State. It's tough to go on the road and play at Ohio State. But that's the situation we're in, and I want our guys to embrace it. I'm going to try to make practice as difficult as I possibly can. Typically, we do light music on Tuesday because there's still a lot of teaching going on Tuesday from a game plan perspective, and then Wednesday it's full throttle. Piercing eardrums, headaches for the coaches at the end of practice. It's not a whole lot of fun, to be honest. I've actually been talking to Jevin about, I don't know a whole lot about this kind of stuff, but turning the treble down because it just pierces your ear out there. But we're going to do it start today. Tuesday, Wednesday, we're going to do it all week long to make it as difficult as we possibly can make it. As you guys know, I think I told you earlier in the year, we went out and bought one of those decibel meters for practices and for games, so we can literally replicate the type of music that's played in the stadium, crowd noise, chants, songs, how loud it is, the whole deal. Probably more so for the offense than the defense. But the other thing is on special teams, for the punt team to be able to hear the calls and those types of things. For the field goal team, that's something that probably in years past we hadn't done a good enough job, but we've implemented that into special teams as well now.
All right, James, your left. How has your team's confidence developed over the past 12 or 13 months, and how does that manifest itself on the field?
I think it's good. I think it's good. We have routines around here, and I think the routine is important. Standard operating procedure. I think there's confidence that comes from that because they know what to expect. You can say whatever you want to say about me and my staff, but we're the same guys every day. I think that is so important. Coaches are constantly complaining about leadership, not enough leadership. Well, it starts with us. So I think there's confidence that comes from that. I think there's confidence from winning tough games like Iowa. I think there's confidence from winning tough games and opponents like a Michigan. There's confidence from going on the road. There's confidence from playing in Rose Bowls. There's confidence from all these different things. And you can learn from them. But, again, we're going to be playing one of the most talented, gifted, athletic teams in the country on the road, at a team that knows how to win and has done it, for a number of years now. So, it's going to be a real challenge. I don't think there's any doubt about it. But I do believe in our formula. I think people kind of within our circle kind of understand our formula. It's like after the game, I get asked about Ohio State. I'm not talking about Ohio State yet. And it's funny because whenever you do anything like this, other fan bases and nationally, they're looking for reasons to go crazy. I could not have more respect for Ohio State, their program, and Urban Meyer. But I mean, literally, the game just ended. Can I talk about Michigan? Can we enjoy Michigan for a half hour before we move on to the next opponent? But I bring that up because I think there's confidence from our locker room and from our program that they know what to expect and they know how we operate. And I think whenever you can compartmentalize things like that, no different than us talking about, you know, playing great football for 6 seconds. You know, that's the average college football play. You know, let's do that. And I think these approaches, I think, have been helpful for us and our program, and for me for the last 7 years that I've been doing this as a head coach.
Right. James, you already talked about Ohio State's defensive line, how many great players they have. What are the challenges specifically in obvious passing situations when they put 4 defensive ends on the field, just because there's so much athleticism on the line at that point?
I think it's exactly what you said. It's the athleticism. You know, when defensive ends typically different body types, different movement, different style, and we do the same thing. You know, we call it our wild package, where we put 4 defensive ends, and you know, I think Parker Cothran is one of the better nose guards in the country, but his ability to rush the passer is going to be different. It's going to be more power based compared to quickness and lateral movement and those types of things. You know, than if you're going against a traditional inside guy. So, you know, fortunately for us, we go against pretty good ones in practice all the time, which helps us. But you know, that's going to be a challenge in the game. I'd also make the argument us staying on schedule and not getting into situations where it's 3rd and long and obvious passing situations helps, because people aren't typically comfortable going with 4 DNs in the game when the offense could run the ball in that situation. That's obviously why you don't play with 4 DNs. So I think that's an important part of it as well, is not put yourself in those positions as much as you possibly can.
Hi, James.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. In what areas has Grant Haley improved the most from this time last year until now?
I don't know about from last year, but I would say overall is the thing that most DBs have to get comfortable with is playing the ball in the air. I think you see young DBs struggle with that. How do they stay connected, and when do they try to find the ball, and how do they do that? And then they get to the point where they start to get more confident, because some guys, when the ball's in the air, they panic early on because the receiver knows where the ball is or where the ball's going. They have no idea. That is I think one of the more difficult skills to learn. And there's a lot of different ways you can do it. You can turn and find the ball, and knowing how to look and where to look to find it. I mean, it's as simple as a long ball. Guys turn and look over their shoulder, where you got to look up, because you see how many times you see a guy look back and then the ball drops over his head. So understanding where to look, understanding how to stay connected to the receiver, understand that you should never look for the ball unless you've closed that space and you're in proximity of the wide receiver. So I think that's probably the biggest thing with him, is he's very comfortable now with the balls in the air, which allows him to get more pass breakups, allows him to get more interceptions and make plays on the ball. And is really playing at an elite level right now. I think the Jim Thorpe Award came out the other day. I actually think that Christian, Grant, and Marcus could all have been on that list pretty easily, and that's not a slight to Apke, because I think all of them are playing at a high level. But I think us in Alabama, I think we're the only 2 schools in the country that had multiple players on the list. So that's a credit to Tim Banks, that's a credit to Terry Smith and Brett Pry and to those guys. So, but I think it's his confidence with the ball in the air, and I think that's somewhat typical for DBs maturing into that position.
Mike?
Hey, James.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, is this the toughest division in college football?
I don't ever like to say things.
How tough is it?
I don't ever like to say things that are like definitive like that, because I haven't gone out and studied it. Coach Galt, sometimes he'll say that. He'll say, "We got the strongest O-line in the country," or say he'll make statements like that. I'm like, well, where are you getting this data from? I believe it, which is great. I want us to feel that way. I want us to believe that. I've worked in a lot of different conferences, and I think we're part of the discussion. I think you can't have a discussion without us being a part of that discussion. Obviously, our side with with Penn State and with Michigan State and with Michigan and Ohio State all on the same side of the conference, it's up there, you know. And obviously, you know, someone that, you know, maybe has SEC ties is going to feel about that, or someone that has ACC ties is going to feel that, or the Pac-10, you know, or the Big 12. There's going to be arguments made, but I think for the people that study the game nationally without being biased, we're going to be a part of every single one of those debates and conversations, and I think that's all really you care about. But you know, I'd be making that argument. I'd be making that argument.
Time for 2 more.
Hi, James.
Hi.
Obviously, J.K. Dobbins is a really good freshman season for Ohio State. How does that compare to Saquon Barkley's a couple years ago? They were both guys who really weren't expected to make huge contributions, and now they have.
Yeah, you know, I'm not sure. I guess I don't necessarily look at it the way I expected Saquon Barkley to have a big impact as a freshman. We recruited J.K. Dobbins, so you know, I think actually Coach Huff said about 2 months ago that he'll be the starting running back before the season's over, and that's no disrespect to Mike Weber. We think he's fantastic too. So you know, I think he's a special player. There's no doubt about it. He's playing behind a really good offensive line and a good scheme, and you know, just like us, they got a lot of weapons that you have to deal with, which is ideal for running backs. I tell running back guys that we're recruiting all the time, not only do you need to help us recruit offensive linemen, but you need to recruit the wide receivers. And you know, he's fortunate to be in that position with an athletic quarterback, an experienced offensive line, and a lot of speed at the skill position. So he's a talented guy. There's no doubt about it.
Hey James, if you could put yourself in the shoes of a defensive coordinator and you have an early start for game planning against a guy like Saquon, where do you start? What's your week look like early enough?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, why would I answer that question?
Let me take it.
Why would I say what I would do against Saquon Barkley when I'm going to know that better than anybody?
I had a feeling that would be the answer I got. Maybe I could ask it another way or give Neil a shot.
Go ahead.
Maybe
do you understand why I'm not comfortable answering that question?
Absolutely, sure. Do you understand why I'm asking?
I get it. You have your job to do. I got my job to do.
Let's give Neil a turn.
I want to follow up on Travis now. Do you have much of a relationship with Urban Meyer? And I'm wondering, you know, you got a program on the rise, high stakes, whether it's Harbaugh, Meyer. How much camaraderie is there among the coaches, or does it allow for that?
Yeah, I think during the season it's hard. I think I might have mentioned this last year. I mean, we go on the Nike trip together. Gotten to know him probably more so from that experience than anything. And then you have the head coaches meetings. And I actually called him 3 weeks ago about a rule that we were having a discussion about, and I wanted to get his opinion on it. And, I think it was probably 3 weeks ago or something like that. But yeah, you know, during the season, you're just so busy doing your jobs. And then in the off season, you're so busy recruiting that you don't have as much interaction as you'd think. You see each other at the convention. You see yourself maybe on like a Nike trip or things like that. You see them in a high school, but they're usually walking out of a high school and you're walking in, and they're going to see the next prospect or get on a plane and fly somewhere else. So not as much interaction as you'd think. I think probably where you get the most of it is with your staffs. Like, you know, typically I'll have someone that I'm really close with on their staff, or they have someone they're really close with on our staff, and you kind of get to know people that way. You know, we got guys on our staff that I've built relationships with because of someone they're really close with. So no different than your industry, I would think, is you meet people. You guys probably spend a little bit more time together than we would, but you know, that's kind of how the interactions go. And you really probably get to know people and like people and respect people based on what you're told by your buddies that end up going there and working there. And the same thing about you, you know, because they'll say, well, you know, that guy over there is a really good guy. I worked with him, known him for a long time. And, you know, you kind of get to know each other, you know, that way. In a lot of ways. It's amazing how many times we're sitting there, you know, watching film from early in the morning till late at night. Mondays are long days for us. And Joe will have a story about you know, guys that he worked for or worked with, you know, 20 years ago, or Matt's got a story, and, you know, kind of something may come up on the film, or something may come up from a game planning perspective that triggers a memory. Josh Gaddis has got a story, or Ricky Ronnie's got a story, or I got a story, or the other side of the ball. And that's kind of how you get to know people, you know, and then it kind of goes from there.